Yesterday I was sitting in a coffee shop, and what I saw there explains exactly why most men are invisible to women without even realizing it. At the table next to me was a guy, maybe 25, sharp haircut, nice shirt, polished shoes, the kind of man who looks like he's doing everything right. And for nearly an hour, I watched him do everything wrong. He leaned in too much, he laughed too hard, he nodded at everything she said, his eyes desperate for her approval. He thought he was winning her over. He thought his politeness, his attention, his careful manners were exactly what she wanted. But every second that passed, she drifted further away, scrolling her phone, glancing at the door, looking for an exit. That's the tragedy most men don't see. They believe they're doing the right thing, but they're running a program that guarantees failure. That guy wasn't unique. That guy was you. That guy is 98% of men walking into interactions with women, armed with good intentions and the wrong programming. And that programming is the reason why so many of your conversations end in ghosting. It's why so many of your perfect dates end with her choosing another man. You chalk it up to bad luck, but luck has nothing to do with it. This isn't random, it's not cosmic, it's math, it's psychology. It's the same equation playing out over and over again, and the outcome never changes until you change the formula. I remember the night that truth hit me like a brick. I was 20 years old, standing in the corner of a party, holding a drink and watching my friend Alex. Now, Alex was not good looking. He didn't have money. He dressed like he raided a thrift store on discount day. And yet 3 women were orbiting around him, leaning into his words, competing for his attention. Meanwhile, I stood there in my carefully ironed shirt, rehearsed jokes, polite smiles, and not a single person noticed me. That was the night I asked myself, what the hell is going on? And slowly I realized that everything I thought I knew about attraction was a lie. Here's the brutal truth. Women don't care about your resume. They don't care how polite you are. They don't care that you never forget to say please and thank you. The more you try to impress them with niceness, the less they feel anything for you. The harder you chase approval, the faster you kill attraction. It's the cruel inversion men don't want to believe. Wanting her too much makes her want you less. You think it should make sense logically, but attraction isn't logical. It never was. And that's why most men fail, because they try to apply logical strategies to an emotional game. Think about where this programming comes from. From the time you were 5, you were told, be nice to girls, always respect women, never upset them. Teachers, mothers, society drilled this into your head. And yes, being kind is important, but it has nothing to do with attraction. What it created in you is what I call the good boy protocol. You became the golden retriever, loyal, eager, predictable. And the truth is, women don't crave golden retrievers. They crave wolves. Not wild, out-of-control wolves, not cruel or violent wolves, but independent, self-sufficient, unpredictable men who don't roll over the second a pretty face appears. This is what men never understand about tension. Every interaction has polarity points, little moments where the energy either builds or collapses. Most men are terrified of tension. The second they feel it, they smother it. She disagrees with them, and they rush to agree. She challenges them, and they backpedal. She shows discomfort, and they bend over backwards to ease it. They think they're being kind, but they're killing attraction, because comfort is the opposite of excitement. Think about the last time you were captivated by a movie. Was it predictable? Was it smooth and conflict-free? Of course not. Conflict, tension, unpredictability. That's what keeps you glued. Humans are wired for stimulation, and women even more so. A man who dissolves every ounce of tension becomes boring, safe, forgettable. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a woman I liked years ago, stunning, the kind of beauty that makes you rearrange your whole day just for a chance to see her. We were talking, and she said something ridiculous. The old me would have nodded, smiled, agreed to keep the peace. But something in me snapped. I looked at her and said, "That's the dumbest thing I've heard today. And this morning my neighbor told me pigeons are government spies." She froze for a second, shocked. Then she laughed. Then she leaned in closer, and in that moment I realized what every other man had been missing. She didn't need another admirer. She didn't need another servant. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to stand on his own ground. When you worship a woman, you force her to look down on you. It's geometry. It's physics. Respect cannot flow upward from a pedestal. And without respect, attraction dies. That's why so many men, even when they're doing everything right, end up invisible. Because attraction isn't about how much you can give, it's about how much of yourself you can hold back. Most men believe that if they just add more, they'll finally be chosen. Add more compliments, add more availability, add more effort, add more attention. They think attraction works like a reward system. The more you give, the more points you earn, until she finally cashes them in with affection. But attraction doesn't work like that. Attraction is not addition. Attraction is subtraction. The more you take away your constant availability, your predictable responses, your desperate approval, the more space you create for her curiosity, for her desire, for her pursuit. It's the empty space, the pause, the unknown that pulls her in. Think about your phone. When someone is always texting you back immediately, always available, always ready, you start to take their attention for granted. It loses value because it's infinite. It's simple economics. Infinite supply with no demand equals worthlessness. But when someone is unpredictable, sometimes quick to respond, sometimes busy, sometimes teasing, you begin to think about them more. You check your phone more often. You wonder what they're doing. Their scarcity makes their attention valuable. That's how attraction works. It thrives in the vacuum you create, not in the suffocating flood of constant reassurance. This is why so many men end up in the friend zone. The friend zone isn't a mystery. It isn't bad luck. It's math. When you act like a friend while secretly hoping to be a lover, you destroy polarity. You erase tension. You strip away any spark that might have existed. She doesn't put you in the friend zone to be cruel. She puts you there because you put yourself there by presenting yourself as safe, agreeable, and non-sexual. You thought that hiding your interest and waiting for the perfect moment to confess would work, but all it did was train her to see you as a buddy, not a man. And once you've been coded in her brain as safe and asexual, it's nearly impossible to climb out of that category. I knew a guy like this. Let's call him Mike. Every time he liked a woman, he'd become her support system. He'd help her move, listen to her vent, drive her to the airport, sit with her when she cried over another guy. Then months later, he'd confess his feelings, expecting some big payoff. Every time he was rejected, and every time he was devastated. But I was so nice to her, he'd say. And that was exactly the problem. He was nice, but he wasn't attractive. He was safe, but he wasn't desired. Women don't reject men for being nice. They reject men for being boring, predictable, and desperate for approval. The solution isn't to stop being nice, it's to stop making niceness your entire identity. Niceness should be a seasoning, not the main course. The main course has to be masculinity, confidence, independence, playfulness, standards. You can still be kind, but it has to rest on a foundation of self-respect. Without that foundation, kindness is weakness, and weakness kills attraction. There's a reason women are drawn to men who seem like bad boys. It's not because women actually want to be mistreated. It's because bad boys naturally display the qualities of independence, unpredictability, and self-sufficiency. They don't reorganize their entire lives around a woman. They don't beg for validation. They don't fear tension. That makes them magnetic. The tragedy is that most men try to copy this by becoming jerks, thinking cruelty is the secret. But cruelty is just another form of weakness. Real strength is being able to hold your ground without being disrespectful, to disagree without apologizing for it, to walk away when your standards aren't met. That's the ultimate combination. Strength with kindness, independence with compassion. That's the balance that makes you unforgettable. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I matched with a woman online. She was gorgeous, the kind of face that made you want to overthink every word. My instinct was to write something clever, something impressive, something that would make me stand out from the hundreds of men messaging her. But then I stopped myself. I thought, why am I performing? Why am I auditioning for a stranger? Instead, I wrote something that amused me, something I would have said to anyone. And that was the message she responded to instantly. Because it wasn't about her approval, it was about my expression. She could sense the difference. Women can always sense the difference. That's the thing men don't understand. Women have been decoding male behavior since they were teenagers. They've seen every line, every trick, every performance. They know when you're pretending not to care while secretly caring too much. They know when you're acting confident but feeling insecure. You can't fake this. They've evolved with built-in detectors sharper than any lie machine. And that's why the only path forward isn't pretending, it's becoming. You have to become the man who doesn't need female validation, not just act like him. You have to build a life where women are an addition, not the foundation. That means having hobbies that excite you, goals that drive you, friends who challenge you, passions that fulfill you. It means building a life so full that when a woman enters it, she's joining something already vibrant, already meaningful. She becomes a bonus, not your lifeline. And when that happens, everything shifts. You stop chasing because you don't need to. You stop pretending because you don't care to. You stop fearing loss because you're not dependent on her to feel whole. That's when you become magnetic. That's when women start pursuing you, because they can sense they're stepping into something real, something grounded, something bigger than just them. This shift is not easy. It requires you to rewire decades of conditioning. It requires you to stop being the man who waits for permission to live. It requires you to face the discomfort of rejection, the sting of walking away, the silence of independence. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. And freedom is what women respond to most, because it means you can't be manipulated, you can't be controlled, you can't be bent by neediness. You become the man she wants to follow instead of the man who follows her. The moment you stop needing women to validate you is the moment they start noticing you. It's the paradox that breaks most men's minds. They think desire should work like a transaction. I give you effort, attention, affection, and in return, you give me love. But attraction doesn't follow the rules of logic. It follows the rules of nature. And in nature, neediness is weakness. Think about animals in the wild. The predator that stalks too desperately is the one that starves. The one that waits, that conserves energy, that acts only when necessary, is the one that thrives. Women can sense which type of man you are before you even open your mouth. This is why faking it never works. You can't pretend not to care while your every action screams desperation. You can't act confident while your body language betrays nervous energy. Women read between the lines. They notice the way your eyes linger too long, the way you laugh too eagerly, the way your text messages arrive the second they send theirs. Every signal tells them whether you are grounded or desperate, and desperation, no matter how well disguised, is always exposed. I remember this girl I met years ago, stunning, intimidatingly beautiful, the kind who made other men freeze. We were talking, and she said something ridiculous, something about energy crystals controlling the universe. The old version of me would have nodded along, pretended to be fascinated, kept her comfortable at all costs, but I had learned. Instead, I laughed and said, "That's insane. Crystals. Come on. My neighbor thinks pigeons are government spies, and even he sounds more convincing than that." She gasped in mock offense, then she laughed, and then most importantly, she leaned in. Why? Because in that moment, I wasn't another man bending over backwards to please her. I was a man comfortable enough to disagree, to tease, to be myself without fear of rejection. That's what separated me from the dozens of men who had told her everything she wanted to hear. When you place a woman on a pedestal, you force her to look down on you. It's not romantic, it's geometry. Respect cannot grow from worship. Attraction cannot exist without respect. A woman cannot desire a man she doesn't look up to, even slightly. And the moment you show that her beauty is enough to make you abandon your own reality, she loses that respect. This is why most men, even when they think they're doing everything right, become invisible. They show too much interest, too much availability, too much agreement. In their effort to win her over, they erase the very tension that attraction feeds on. But there's another layer men don't understand: the way women test them. These aren't malicious tests, they're instinctual. A woman might take longer to reply, throw a teasing insult, or act a little distant just to see how you react. Do you panic? Do you rush to fix it? Do you send long explanations, trying to reassure her? If so, you fail. Because what she's really measuring is not your words, but your stability. If she can shake you with something small, how will you handle something big? If a late reply can send you spiraling, how will you protect her when life gets hard? She doesn't consciously think all of this, but her instincts do. And when you show you can't handle it, she moves on. Here's the irony: when you stop failing these tests, they stop feeling like tests. A woman challenges you, and you don't flinch. She withdraws, and you don't chase. She pushes, and you don't fall over. You stay grounded, you stay composed, and suddenly the entire dynamic shifts. Instead of her measuring you, she begins to admire you. Instead of her wondering how much she can move you, she starts wondering how she can move closer to you. That's the shift every man wants, but almost none achieve, because they're too scared to let go of control long enough to gain it. I'll never forget a date I had with a woman who was objectively out of my league. Men were staring as we walked into the restaurant. Halfway through the meal, I realized I was bored. She was beautiful, yes, but beauty doesn't fill silence. Beauty doesn't create spark. Beauty doesn't make someone interesting. And for the first time, I didn't pretend. I set my fork down, looked her in the eye and said, "You're gorgeous, but this conversation is putting me to sleep. I think I'd have more fun watching Netflix tonight." And I left. She called me that night. She texted the next day. For weeks, she chased me harder than anyone ever had. Not because I used some strategy, but because I showed her that my time, my energy, my life were more valuable than her looks. That's the essence of all of this. Women don't want to be the center of your universe. They want to enter a universe that already exists. They don't want to complete your life, they want to complement it. If you're using women as emotional band-aids, they'll sense it and run. If you're full without them, they'll sense that too, and they'll be drawn to it. Because nothing is more magnetic than a man who doesn't need. He may want, he may desire, but he doesn't need. And that difference changes everything. This is why most men never experience real attraction. They spend their lives trying to fill a void with women, hoping validation will heal them, hoping affection will fix them. But women aren't looking to complete broken men, they're looking to join whole ones. And the moment you stop asking women to complete you, you stop being manipulated by them. You stop being controlled by the ebb and flow of their attention. You step into a place of stability, and that stability is what turns the tables. She stops being the prize. You become the prize. And for the first time, she feels what you've been feeling your whole life, that irresistible pull towards something she can't quite control. The men who never learn this spend their lives repeating the same cycle. They meet a woman, they put her above themselves, they bend their schedule, their opinions, their identity just to please her, and then they're shocked when she loses interest. They say she changed, they say she led them on. They say women don't know what they want, but the truth is much harder to swallow. It's not that she changed, it's that she saw the real you. She saw a man with no boundaries, no standards, no frame of his own. And no woman can stay attracted to that, no matter how much she might appreciate your kindness or your effort. Attraction and respect are not polite agreements. They are primal forces, and when you betray your own strength, you kill both at once. That's why emotional control is everything. Not pretending, not posturing, not memorizing lines from some dating coach on the internet. Real, grounded control. It shows in the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to challenges, the way you can disagree without apology, the way you can walk away without bitterness. Women feel that energy instantly. They feel the difference between a man who needs their approval to breathe and a man who breathes just fine without it. The first man is forgettable, no matter how hard he tries. The second man is unforgettable, no matter how little he tries. This shift doesn't just change your dating life, it changes your entire life. When you stop chasing validation, you free up massive energy. Energy you used to waste on overthinking texts, replaying conversations, worrying about ghosting, doubting yourself. That energy now goes into your passions, your goals, your body, your mind. You become sharper, more focused, more alive. You walk differently. You talk differently. People sense it. Women sense it. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the confidence that comes from actually living a life worth sharing. And ironically, that's what makes women want to share it. But here's the price. When you begin this journey, you will lose people. The women who fed on your constant attention will disappear. The friends who liked you always bending to their needs will pull back. Even family might not understand at first, accusing you of being cold, distant, or selfish. That's the cost of growth. When you stop living for others' approval, the people who thrived on your weakness will feel threatened. Let them. Their absence creates space for people who respect you, who see your value without needing you to beg for it. On the other side of that loneliness is something far rarer, authentic connection. The saddest thing I see are men in their 40s, 50s, still trapped in the same cycle they started at 15, still trying to nice their way into attraction, still confused why they keep being overlooked, still bitter, still blaming, still blind to the truth. Don't be that man. Don't waste decades running a program that has never worked and never will. If you feel invisible now, it won't magically change with age. The only thing that changes it is you, your mindset, your standards, your willingness to stop playing a rigged game and start writing your own rules. It won't be easy. Reprogramming your mind takes practice, failure, and courage. You'll overcorrect at first. You'll swing from too nice to too distant, from too agreeable to too argumentative. You'll mess up. That's part of it. But even those mistakes will bring you closer to truth than your old successes ever did. Because when you stop hiding, when you stop pretending, when you start showing up as yourself, raw and unapologetic, you'll feel something you may have never felt before: freedom. The freedom to walk away. The freedom to be rejected without crumbling. The freedom to choose instead of beg to be chosen. And that freedom is where attraction lives. Not in rehearsed lines, not in desperate gestures, not in endless chasing. Attraction lives in the gap between what she expects and what you actually give. She expects you to agree, you disagree. She expects you to chase, you stay grounded. She expects you to worship, you smile and move on. That unpredictability is intoxicating. It flips the script. For once, she's the one checking her phone, wondering what you're doing, replaying your words in her head. For once, you're the one with space in her mind. That's when you stop being another man in the crowd and become the one she can't forget. The truth is this: women can't manipulate men who control their emotions. They can't, because manipulation relies on reaction. If there is no reaction, there is no control. A woman may test you, she may challenge you, she may push, but if you remain steady, she runs out of weapons. All that's left is respect, and from respect grows attraction, and from attraction grows desire, and from desire grows the kind of connection most men will never experience. So the question is simple: Will you keep running the good boy protocol, hoping politeness will buy you love? Or will you finally step into the discomfort of growth and become the man who doesn't need permission to be himself? Because the second you do, everything changes. The women who once ignored you start noticing you. The world that once overlooked you starts respecting you, and the life that once felt heavy starts to open. That's the power of emotional control. That's the power of becoming a man who cannot be manipulated because he already owns himself.